Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today at the Writers' Conference. My name is Kristen. I work with the Johnson County Library, and I'm here to introduce your speaker for Publishing Options and Opportunities. But before I do that, I have a brief land acknowledgement. This land has long been home to Indigenous people who have stewarded it for generations. We recognize and honor the Kansa, Kaskaskia, Kickapoo, Osage, Peoria, Sioux, and Shawnee tribes and acknowledge their continued presence, resilience, and cultural contributions. As we engage together today, let's do so with awareness and respect. I'm really excited to introduce Kyndall Tiller, the publication manager at the Mid-Continent Library Story Center. The Story Center offers services that empower people to create and share stories and connect with the stories of others. And she's going to give you some insights today. Thanks, Kyndall.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pop this up a little. Hi, everyone. This is Publishing Options and Opportunities. My name is Kyndall Tiller. I'm the publication manager at the Story Center, and I handle all of the publishing at the Story Center. So we have a publishing imprint called Woodneath Press. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in a session at 1 o'clock if you would like to come to that one. This is a program that I give pretty regularly, so this is going to be a condensed version of that. So if you all are interested in seeing the whole thing, we have our next one on Zoom on November 17th. I will also be sending out the slides to anyone who wants them. So if you want to put your email up here at the end, I will send those out as well as a resources document. It's usually easier to do that because it's a lot of links, and that way you can click through them instead of having to type them in. A little bit about me. My background is in publishing. I have a master's in book publishing from Portland State University, and I have worked at several trade presses and university presses. And in my role at the Story Center, I help aspiring authors to get published. So I walk them through their options, walk them through the process of self-publishing or getting started with traditional publishing, whether that be creating their first query letter, things like that. Then I also do all of the programming for us. So I am going to go through a little bit of the basics of your options for publishing today. It's not tonight. So this is what I'm going to go through. I'll talk a little bit about traditional publishing, touching on literary agents, as well as hybrid publishing, what to look out for in vanity presses, and then self-publishing and local community projects, and library publishing, as well as a few different alternative options. So what I always like to start out with when I'm doing any type of publishing project is making sure that people know what their goals are. So this is going to be your first step, no matter what you're writing. So these are just a few questions to get you started. And I always encourage people to do kind of a brainstorming activity with this. We don't have time to really share, but I would encourage you when you go home, kind of think about these questions and jot down a little bit about what your goals are with your project. So that's going to be, who do you want to reach? So who is your audience for your project? What's the scope of your project? So where do you want your book to be sold if you are doing some selling? Are you wanting it to be sold in Barnes & Noble? Are you looking more in your local community? Do you want to just be distributing through your local bookstores? Or are you only going to be selling online? So these are some things to be thinking about. What is the purpose of your project? What are you trying to accomplish with it? And then how much work are you willing to contribute? So with this question, I think about it in terms of how much time and how much money are you willing to invest, and what's the ratio of that, because that's going to be different for each of the different paths that you can go. So I'll talk about that with each of the different paths. I'll talk about how that differs with each. So as I mentioned, these are the main avenues of publishing that I'm going to be covering. We'll talk about the different types of traditional publishers. We'll talk about Big Five, mid-size, and then independent publishing. Hybrid is going to be kind of this middle ground between traditional and self-publishing. And then I'll touch on digital and print self-publishing, as well as community programs. So I'll talk a little bit about our program, Woodneath Press, and similar ones in local libraries, as well as in the Indie Author Project. And then also, publishing is just an industry that is always evolving. So I'll touch on some interesting social publishing opportunities that some people don't think about. All right, so starting with traditional. So when we're thinking about traditional in terms of your goals, traditional publishing is going to be something where you are putting in a lot of time on the front end. So you're going to be doing a lot of research, putting together your submissions, and kind of figuring out where you want to fall in the traditional publishing landscape. So when we think about the big five up here, we have kind of our biggest sellers. So these are going to be all of the publishing presses that you will need to have an agent in order to submit to them. And I'll touch on agents in a second. Mid-size, it's going to be a little mixed. Most of them you're going to have an agent for. However, Andrews McMeel is an exception to that, which is based right here in Kansas City. You do not have to be agented in order to submit to them. And then you have your independent presses. Independent presses, most of them you will not have to be agented for. There are some that you will, so you'll have to do your research. These are going to be smaller presses that are usually more niche. So if you're doing like genre fiction or really specific topics, this is something that you really want to dive into to find a good fit for your independent press. I also have down here university presses are something that a lot of people don't think about. And they do a lot of nonfiction, but a lot of them will also do regional fiction. So if you have something that is really set in the area that you live in, I would definitely recommend looking into university presses. In the resources document that you will receive if you sign up, I have the full database of university presses on there, so you can go through and kind of see what their guidelines are, see if it's a good fit depending on where your book is set. Also really good with scholarly topics as well, if any of you are interested in that. Another thing to touch on with the big five is going to be imprints. So imprints are going to be more along the line of indie, with the different niches that they have. So they are going to be aligned with specific subject matter or genres. They'll have very specific goals in mind for those. And you do have to be agented, but it's a good thing to think about if maybe you want a smaller team, you want the experience of an independent publisher with the backing of a big five. And they're also going to have a larger marketing department behind them. They're going to help you have a bigger reach while also getting a more narrow audience for you to really hone in on the people that are going to want your book. So a little more about traditional publishing. This requires no money from you. So like I said, you're going to be putting in a lot of time on the front end, a lot of research rather than money on the front end. So the way that it's going to work with money is that you are going to do your submissions, and then if there is a publisher that is interested in you, they're going to offer you an advance oftentimes. So with the larger presses, you're looking at a larger advance, and your agent is going to handle all of the contract for those. With the independent publishers, you're looking at a smaller advance. Once you earn out this advance, so let's say with an independent publisher, you may have $1,000 advance. Once you've sold enough books to cover that, you are going to be making royalties from there. So you'll be making a percentage of each of the books that are sold through them. All of the marketing is going to be done in-house, which means that you are going to have a team that is working to push your book out there. So this is going to be the main difference in traditional publishing and self-publishing. So when we go into self-publishing, we'll talk more about how you have to market it yourself. So this is going to be one of the pros of traditional, is that you do have those resources behind you when you're looking to kind of get your book out there and really push those sales. Like I mentioned, you're going to have the support of industry professionals behind you every step. So there will be editors working at the publisher. They will be hiring any, if you're doing a children's book, they will help you get connected with an illustrator. All of that is going to be on them. You don't have to, it's relatively hands-off compared to your other options. One thing to think about, though, is that it is highly competitive, especially if your goal is big five or mid-size. Even some of the independent publishers are becoming pretty competitive. So you do want to make sure that you are really aligned with what they're looking for if you are looking to kind of limit your submissions. And yeah, it can be a strenuous process. You are looking at a lengthened timeline if you're going traditional. So I would recommend giving yourself at least 6 months for submissions. And then you're looking at about 6 months to a year to hear back. And then from there, you have a 1 to 2 year publishing timeline. So if you're looking to get your book out right now, traditional is not going to be for you. If you're, publishing something that's very timely, you may want to look into self-publishing if it's something that you want to get out in the next 6 months or so. All right, and that brings us to literary agents. So as I mentioned, this is a necessity for Big 5 and mid-sized publishers, and there are some independent publishers right now that will only take agented submissions. What is really important about agents is finding the right fit. So you will be looking through agents' manuscript wish list. Each agent is very specific in what they're looking for at any given time. So they will include a little bit about the genres that they're looking for. Sometimes they'll include age range, things like that. So these are going to be really specific, so it'll be easy for you to go agent by agent, look at their wish list, and see if your book is going to fit for them or not. The submission process for agents is very similar to submitting to like an independent publisher. So you're going to need to write a query letter, which is basically a letter pitching your book. So it will include a description of your book, the main elements, so like your main protagonist, the main conflict, things like that, as well as just general information about your book, word count, comp titles, which are going to be comparative titles that are similar to yours that would be shelved with yours in the store. So you're going to have about the similar kind of submission packet for if you're going agent or independent publisher. So your next steps for traditional, you'll want to decide if you want to go in the route of finding an agent or if you would like to go in the route of just submitting to independent presses. Both of these, like I said, are going to be similar in that you're collecting this information about your book, you're writing your description, you're writing your author bio, you're getting together your comparative titles, and just all of the information about your book. For finding a literary agent, the best place to start is to go through individual agency websites, and each of them will list out the agents with their manuscript wish list and their open submission periods. So a lot of agents are only open for 2 months at a time, so that's something that you want to go through. You'll mark down, what 2 months out of the year they're open so that you can be prepared for their next one if you think it's a really good fit. You are really going to be looking for, like I said, when their submissions are open and then what they're looking for. I have also included a few different databases in the resources document where you can get started, and they have a lot of agents listed out, so you can start with those before you get into the really specific agency by agency research. And then if you're doing small presses, I would recommend always starting local, especially if you are writing a regional-based project. And you're also going to want to look for independent presses who are accepting unsolicited manuscripts, that's the language that they use, and or proposals. So if you are publishing like a nonfiction book, they're going to ask you for a proposal rather than the full manuscript. A lot of the times they will ask you for your query letter and then maybe 2 or 3 sample chapters just to get started. If they're interested, they'll ask you to submit the full manuscript. So for both of these, what you're looking to do is compile your query letter and your submission materials. I have some resources on the resource document on how to get started writing your query letter, as well as tips for finding literary agents. All right, and that brings us to hybrid. Hybrid is going to be kind of this in-between ground. If we're thinking about what we're investing, if you have more money and less time, this may be something that you want to look into. So with hybrid, you are taking on the cost. So you're basically hiring a publisher to do the publishing for you. So you're going to take on the cost and the financial risk, but you're still going to have that team of professionals that are similar to traditional. However, you are going to be paying them rather than with the traditional process, you're not having to put in any money. You do own the work afterwards, And it is really important that you're doing your research with hybrid publishers because there are a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of vanity publishers, as they call them, which are going to be publishers where you're paying a lot of money and not getting a quality product at the end. So you want to make sure that you do your research. Independent Book Publishers Association does have guidelines for this that I have included in the resources document. I'll also go over a few, but these are really helpful. There's a checklist you can go through if you're doing your research and kind of make sure that this is a legitimate publisher and that it's not going to be something where you're putting in money and not getting back what you are promised. So these are a few of the criteria that I mentioned. There's a full document on this that I have linked on the resources guide, but just a few things that you can use as a checklist. So if you are actually publishing with a legitimate hybrid publisher, they are going to be doing the distribution for you. They are going to be acquiring the ISBN, copyright, doing everything that a publisher would be doing. You are just paying for a package, basically. So it's going to be dependent on what you want from them. If you're really focused on getting marketing support from them, that may be a package that you decide to go through. If you really want to focus on editorial, things like that, you'll be able to kind of create a flexible package for you depending on what you need the most help with and what you want to do the work on or what you want them to. So like I said, this is going to be a lot of putting in, some research on the front end, but also you will need to put together a budget to figure out what's the best for you and what you actually want them to be helping you with in this publishing process. So as I mentioned, you do want to be aware of vanity presses. So these are going to be presses that are calling themselves hybrid presses, but they're not actually going to deliver on what they're promising. So something to think about when you're submitting to hybrid presses, you should not pay to submit. You will have to pay for the actual services, but if they're asking you to pay on the front end, that is a red flag. And you just want to make sure that you're doing your research. So on the resources document, I have also included a few different resources that include known vanity presses. So if you're looking at one and you're like, this has some red flags, it may be a vanity press, you can go to those lists and make sure that they're not on there. If they are, then that's going to tell you to move on. If they're not, then you can go a little deeper and kind of look into those guidelines and make sure that it seems like it's a legitimate opportunity. So if you are looking for hybrid, your next steps are going to be figuring out a budget and then doing your research for those legitimate hybrid publishers. And the submission process for hybrid is going to be similar to traditional, where you will have a query letter. They will actually be vetting the submissions if they are a legitimate hybrid press. So. All right, and that brings us to self-publishing. So self-publishing is going to be, you're going to have all creative control if you're self-publishing. It is fully hands-on, so you are going to have the power over your whole project. Something to think about is, like I mentioned earlier with the marketing, you are going to have to build your brand from the ground up. You're not going to have the support of, all of the connections that a publisher would have. So you're going to have to be doing, you may have to do paid ads. You're going to have to build your author website, all of your social media, do some networking to try to really get your book out there. This is going to be a way bigger time commitment as well. So if you think about it, you are putting together all of your materials. So that means if you need to hire any freelancers, that's on you. You'll be paying for an editor for sure, whether that be a copy editor or if you want to do like a full developmental edit, that's something that you will have to think about. Also any design work, so you may have to hire somebody to do your cover art or your design layout for the interior of the book if you're not familiar. You can always teach yourself if you know how to use like Adobe InDesign. That is something that you can do, but if you are wanting to give it to a professional, you will have to think about your budget for that and hiring somebody to do your interior. There are several options, and I would say it's the easiest it has ever been to self-publish now. So I'll talk through a little bit of tools. So these are the two main tools that are out there right now. There are a lot of other smaller ones, but I would say these kind of hold the most of the market right now. So Ingram Spark is an offshoot of Ingram Content Group, which is a large distributor that a lot of traditional presses use for their distribution. And Ingram Spark is their self-publishing offshoot of that. So you can publish both ebooks and print books through them. Something about them is that they do have a large distribution network because they are a part of Ingram. So if you do publish with them and you decide to distribute, they are going to put your book on different websites. It'll be on Amazon, it will be on bookshop.org, as well as barnesandnoble.com, places like that. But also you'll be able to reach like independent bookstores as well. So your book will be put into the Ingram catalog if you self-publish through them, which means that you can approach local bookstores, ask them to stock your book and say, hey, you can just order them through Ingram's catalog so that there's not a middleman there. So that is one of the big pros, I would say, of using Ingram Spark, is that it's very easy to get into bookstores. You still do have to have kind of that one-on-one interaction with the owners of the bookstores and things like that, but they're a lot more likely to stock your book if it's easier for them and it just goes with their normal processes. You can also get into libraries through Ingram Spark. Again, if they order through Ingram, they'll be able to order your book, and it's easier for them. Kindle Direct Publishing through Amazon is another one. Sure, you've heard about this one. So they do publish both ebooks and print books, and then Amazon does handle all of the distribution for these. It's going to be a very similar process to publish with either of these. You create an account, you have your PDFs already created, and then you just upload those. They have a lot of different paper types and cover types, things like that, so you'll be able to choose and then kind of fiddle around with it to see what the specific price is going to be for each of the book, depending on what you're looking for. So one thing to think about with KDP or Kindle Direct Publishing is if you are wanting to do solely ebooks, it can be a good idea to solely go through Amazon because they have a few different options for you that allow more promotion. They also do Kindle is like the highest in ebooks right now. So it is something that you will get out there more if you publish ebooks through them. So they do have KDP Select, which is a program that you can opt into, which includes more promotion and inclusion in Amazon's Kindle Unlimited subscription. If you're not familiar, Kindle Unlimited is a subscription-based service. Readers pay, I think it's $12 a month now. It may have gone up again, but you pay that monthly, and then you get access to the full library of Kindle Direct or Kindle Unlimited titles. So that is going to give you more exposure, and you may get more readers that you may not have gotten if you weren't a part of the program. So that can be somewhere to start, as well as if you're wanting to just start with ebooks and kind of gain a readership, that's somewhere you can start as well. And for both of these, they do both do distribution for online sales. So that means that they're direct to consumer. So they are going to be printing the books and sending them to the people that order them. You will be making a percentage of each of those books after they take out the print cost. All right, I do have to talk about library publishing because we're in a library, and we have Woodneath Press, which you can learn more about in a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about it, but I do want to talk about community programs. They are often overlooked, but they are growing in size. So library publishing initiatives like Woodneath Press, these programs focus on community, so focus on publishing local authors and growing readership rather than a focus on sales. So a lot of them will only accept submissions in the local area. Usually if it's a library, only people who are eligible to have a library card through the system or live in the service area. So you can start with looking at your local community and seeing if there are any opportunities like that. Woodneath Press publishes local authors, and we do 2 submissions periods a year, one for short stories for an anthology that usually has a theme, and then another for a single authored full-length submission. And with these, we're really focused on selling through local bookstores. So we have partnerships with all the bookstores around Kansas City, as well as different author talks and programming through the library system as well. And then the book is obviously in the library's collection, and we really focus on getting circulation of that book as well. Another thing to consider is the Indie Author Project. So through the Indie Author Project, this goes through your local library, and you are able to publish ebooks for readers through the libraries in the whole state. They do have curated selections, so you do submit just like you would with any other publisher. And you'll just submit your EPUB for consideration, and they have a board that goes through and accepts a certain number each submission period. Usually they're open April and May every year. And this is just a good opportunity to gain that readership like I was talking about. So just to kind of get your work out there, to start creating an audience for the books that you're writing in a way that really reaches your local community. All right. Some other alternative options. I did want to mention social publishing. So right now, everyone has a platform basically with social media and the internet. So I do want to mention a few things just to get you kind of thinking. So this will allow you to share your work with a wider audience, and it's a great way to get started and gain that readership before you actually publish in a traditional capacity. So what I'm talking about here is any type of social capacity of sharing your work. So this can be on Instagram. Instagram poetry is a big thing. Ruby Carr really got her start on Instagram after she self-published. Andrews McMeel picked up her work, and now she's one of the biggest selling poets of all time. So, and Instagram is what really got her work out there. Archive of Our Own and Wattpad are used for, fan fiction, things like that. Also, fan fiction now, as we know, is kind of, blowing up and becoming mainstream publishing. Webtoon is more for, graphic novels and things like that. Heartstopper, which is a best-selling graphic novel series right now. There's a Netflix show. It got its start on Webtoon and got picked up by a mainstream publisher. Blogs are also something. We've seen a lot of nonfiction books come from blogs. So like mommy blogs and parenting blogs have gotten a lot of authors their starts. So really just getting out there and anything that is going to allow you to gain a readership that you can present to a publisher later on and say, hey, I have 100,000 followers here. These are going to be people that you can pull for sales later. So these are always good things that are going to stick out to publishers, whether it be like followers on social media or readers on a blog. So just things to think about, anywhere that you can build a following and kind of start to build that readership for yourself before you even get into the publishing sphere. Okay, these are a few of the resources. Like I said, put your email up here and I will send these out to you as well as the slides. Yeah. And then we will do some questions. Hi.
Hi. Hi. The do your research. It seems like everybody that talks about that says the exact same. Do your research. Is IBPA similar to the Better Business Bureau or something that they're going to have a list of people that have infractions or a rating kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Or, so what does that exactly mean? Do your research.
Yeah, so the criteria that I have linked, they do have a list of vanity presses on there as well that are well known, so you can go through.
Okay.
Yes, they do. And then I have another one attached too that's called Writer Beware, and they actually do this research for you, and they have a whole list of red flagged publishers. So those are good to, if you think you found one, you can go and kind of compare to the list and everything. So yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Query process of trying to find a literary agent.
Yeah.
How long do you wait before you like nudge them or?
So the etiquette in the industry is that you don't nudge them. So I would say usually it's about 6 months to hear back from them. And usually agents are pretty good about getting back to you, whether, it might be a really long time after, but they will reach out and say, hey, it's a no. And a lot of them will actually send you feedback as well, which is really nice. That is different than publishers, where a lot of publishers you may just never hear back from them. But for that, I would say usually 6 months, and then don't follow up, unfortunately. I usually recommend using like a spreadsheet or something and tracking all of the agents that you've reached out to, and then you can track their responses and things like that.
It's just crickets.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say, like, they're just inundated with submissions at this point. And it depends on the time of year as well. They'll get more submissions different times of the year. So I don't know if you've sent them all out at one time or if you're doing it like in a layered.
Batches. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I would recommend doing batches, and then you can kind of rate the ones that you're interested in as well. So if you didn't hear back from, your top in 8 months, you may want to kind of go a different direction.
Okay, here's my thing. I think I could write a book, no problem. The query letter, it's the worst. They're the worst, and I don't know why. I've sent out probably maybe 50 to different agents, and I have a hard time selling myself. I don't know how to say that, but I don't know what to do.
Sure. I always like to say, you're trying to get them to want to read the full manuscript. So like, what is so great about your book, So I think it's really important to kind of have a hook, and the main part of your query letter that matters is gonna be that description portion. Because you only get about 250 words to tell them why they should read your full manuscript. So that is the most important part, and it's dependent on your book, but really, like, you are passionate about this book, yes? Yeah, so what makes you passionate about it? Why is this important, and why should people want to read it, basically? Is kind of what, and I know that's so hard to get into, 250 words, but that is going to be the biggest part of the query letter hurdle, I'd say. Yeah.
You mentioned at the Story Center, I think you mentioned that sometimes you help people with query letter things.
Yes.
What sort of resources, specific to query letter writing, are available at the Story Center?
Yeah, so I have some resources linked, but also you can meet one-on-one with me, and I'll give you feedback on your query letter if you have one written. We also do some query letter workshops. Our next one isn't until April, but we are working to get some more instated, like in better intervals, where people can kind of work with other people who are working on their query letters to get feedback on that.
So in self-publishing, you mentioned Ingram Spark and KDP.
Mhm.
Can you do both of them, or do you have to pick one?
So Ingram Spark is going to actually publish on Amazon for you, so there's no need to do both. Ingram Spark is just going to be covering a larger portion of the industry, basically, whereas Amazon, you're strictly publishing through Amazon. Yeah.
So just to kind of expound on that a little bit, with Ingram Sparks, if you do decide to do both platforms, they talk. So there's a way you can turn it off, because they'll negotiate your book terms down so that you're not getting as much in return. So make sure if you are going to do both platforms, that you turn that off when you sign up with Ingram Sparks. Also, Amazon, if you're publishing straight through Amazon, the ISBNs that you're getting, they aren't real. That's why they're free.
Yeah, same
So
thing
you-
with Ingram Spark.
Yeah, you can't put, Ingram Sparks you can put into libraries, you can put into bookstores and big box bookstores, but Amazon is purely just through Amazon. So there's a lot of kind of back and forth with that. And then also with Ingram Sparks from the local bookstores that I've been hearing, the shipping and the printing quality has gone down. I know I talked to Ink and Page this last week, and they said they had to return 6 big boxes because they all got destroyed in shipping. So something to think about. I'm Midnight Garden Publishing. We're a small hybrid local publishing company. It's just getting started.
Yeah, another thing with the ISBN, I have it linked on the resources document, but I would recommend going ahead and buying your own ISBNs. You can buy them in bulk through Bowker Publishing Services, and that's like the industry standard in the US. And that really just makes sure that you're not limited in anything that you can do with your book. They will offer free ones through Amazon and Ingram Spark. I just recommend going ahead and buying them, especially if this is like a career thing for you and you're going to be doing several books, because you'll need one for the ebook version, you'll need one for print. If you have like a hardcover version, each of those will need another ISBN. So I just recommend buying like either the 10 or the 20 option, because it's going to be a lot cheaper for you in the long run. They never expire, they just live on your account. Yep.
Question on what you're paying for the hybrid versus self-publishing. So obviously, for both, you're paying for your editor, your book design, all those kind of things. But what about the actual physical publishing of the book? Are you paying for, like, Amazon, that's on demand, so you don't pay upfront prices. But on the hybrid, are you like buying 10 boxes of books?
Yeah, it'll depend on who you're working with. Some of them are print on demand. Others do work with like a local printer, and you will have to buy in bulk if you're planning on doing like hand selling. So it kind of just depends on who you're working with. They will do all of the printing through them, but some will use something like Ingram Spark. Others will. So that's something that you want to talk about before you do a contract is, you know, what kind of print quality are you looking at, and things like that.
Do you have any budget guidelines for hybrid and self-publishing?
Guidelines. It kind of just depends what you, like the quality of the work that you're wanting and what you are looking for. On the criteria, I believe the list from IBPA, they do have some like budgeting kind of guidelines sort of for hybrid and what you should be looking for. In terms of self-publishing, it's really just what you're going to be paying for. So are you needing a full illustrator for the cover, or are you just paying somebody to do maybe like, you know, the title? It's kind of just dependent on what you're looking for. And if you need somebody to do like full design of the inside, or if you're going to be doing it yourself through like Word. It's really just the level of professionalism that you're looking for and what you're able to do on your own. So usually I have also included the editorial guidelines, because there are editing standards that you can look at if you're looking for copy editing, proofreading, developmental editing. It'll tell you like what the standards are for cost per word. So those are things that you can look at, and it's going to depend on also how big your book is for printing cost as well. Yeah. And then obviously if you're going through print on demand, that's going to be cheaper than if you're going through like a local publisher and purchasing, you know, 200 in bulk, because that will be something that you'll have to cover yourself. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So once you're deciding you're going to work with a publisher, what's the criteria, or is that the right word, but you got the big 5, but once you get past that, how critical does the publisher's name become, and is it more just the services? You know, it could be Larry's Publishing, you know, I mean.
Yeah, that is just going to be dependent on kind of, again, what your goals are. If you're looking to, you know, make money, you may want to go with a larger, more well-known publisher that's going to have better marketing resources and also going to be offering you a larger advance. If you just want to get the book out in the world, then yeah, if it's, you know, mom and pop, this really small, you know, one-man publisher, that's fine as well, just to like get yourself out there, and you can still say that you have been traditionally published. So again, it goes back to the goals and kind of establishing really what you want out of your book.
So if you did it with a small publisher, you're saying if it starts to take off, a big publisher could conceivably want to?
Yes, yeah, that is something, especially if you've self-published, we've been seeing that a lot lately, is people will pick up self-published books, and then, they'll get published with a larger publisher. So that is something that you can do, and they will still publish your self-published book. They'll just take it down, and yeah.
That's the big thing. I mean, if you self-published, you got your reader base, you got 100,000 followers on Instagram, why would you then go into more traditional publishing?
It's really going to be the backing again. They just have more connections, and they're going to be able to get you in front of more people, basically. So, I mean, if you're fine with, the numbers that you're doing as a self-published author, if you're fine with doing everything yourself, then you may not want to go with if there's an independent publisher that approaches you. But if it's a big five and they're approaching you, you're going to want to go with them just because of the name recognition and just the resources that they're going to be able to offer you, basically. Yeah.
I know this is obviously not a one-size-fits-all type of question, but how do you know once you're ready to start querying? Especially since there's a lot of agents and publishers and stuff that are they don't want repeat queries, and so it's kind of a one-and-done thing.
Yeah. I would say it is very specific to the person, but I will say I've met so many authors that have edited and edited and edited, and they're like if it was up to them, they would never be ready. So I do want to say trust yourself, and once you get to a certain point where you're I could keep editing, but who knows when you're gonna stop that. I think that once you've gotten through critique with others, and if you have critique partners, I think at least having other eyes on it is good before. But also don't beat it to death, because a lot of agents are also going to have edits for you. So you'll be going through that, and then also once you get to the publisher, you're also going to be going through edits. So don't feel like it has to be in perfect shape, because they know that it's not, and you will be changing something along the line. So I would say, get some other eyes on it. And once you're feeling good about it, just know that that's not the final version.
Just a nuts and bolts matter. So these publishers or whoever can find you, what do you recommend an author put in their self-published book as far as contact info? Do you want to create your own website?
Yeah, I would recommend having your own website and then doing some sort of contact form on the website. Or if you want to also create a author email, you can do that. And then just make sure that you're checking that regularly. You can do a contact page at the back of the book with your author bio. That's what I would recommend doing, yeah. But yeah, having that author website is going to be something that also just sets you apart professionally. Especially if you want to, even as a self-published author, if you want to be a part of author fairs and things like that to sell your book, that's what they're going to be looking for, is that professional kind of standard across the board.
And I would also put on there that if you have a bookmark for your book, I know professionally speaking, when I get cards and bookmarks, I have the link to go and buy their book, but they don't put on their email, they don't put on the phone number, they don't put their website on, and they're missing those opportunities where I could reach out and actually get a hold of them.
Yeah, definitely website everywhere. Just put your website everywhere. Yes.
So I'm brand new to all of this. How do agents get paid? Do we pay for them up front? How does that work?
Yeah, so you will not be paying the agents. They're going to get, so I like to say they don't succeed unless you do. So they're not going to be getting paid until you get a deal. So they'll be working off of commission once you have book sales actually through a publisher. So you will not be paying them at all until you have your book deal.
How much influence does the agent have on getting a big five versus a mid-size or?
So it's going to depend on their personal connections. And I don't want to say that it's going to be better if you have one that's been doing it for 50 years, because it really does depend on the situation. But it does depend on their personal network, who they have worked with in the past, and also if they have a backlist that really aligns with your book. I think that's really important. Because of the people that they've worked with, they're going to be able to kind of get in the room with people that others may not be able to. But I will say that all agents will be submitting to a mix of different publishers. So they'll be submitting to independent publishers all the way up to Penguin Random House. So you are going to have options, and if it does get to the point where there are multiple publishers that are interested in you, you will have the final say. There may be like a bidding, and they're going to be working on the contract for you as well.
For indie publishers, is there a standard percentage book sales to expect or range?
No, I don't want to tell you a specific one across the board. That's going to be something that you'll work out in your contract. I will say with independent especially, like you will be able to negotiate that if you want to. If you're going independent, that's going to be something that you're going to be doing by yourself. So I would recommend, doing some research, but it is really dependent on the publisher. I will say if you're working with an agent, they're going to have the specific percentages of a lot across the board. So they're going to be able to negotiate the best for you. So that is also a good thing with agents if you're, still trying to get published, maybe even with a smaller one, but you would like to have some sort of backup or have somebody to help you with the contract and some of the legal things. You can still, try to find an agent first. If you do just like kind of want somebody on your side, you can still do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kyndall. Thank you everyone for joining us for this session. The Story Center will be at Writers Row until 1, so you have a little bit of a break now before 1 o'clock sessions if you want to find the Story Center and our other writing community partners. You just head right out of the door into the west side of the library. And check out the library's services for writers page. We have a few things that you might be interested in. Open mic nights if you'd like to read something that you're writing, meet more people in the local community, and our writing contests are also listed there. That's a possible path to some local publishing, like the community projects that she discussed. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
If you would like resources, if you could just put your email up here, I'll send those out as well as the slides.
Will you have time for a break to go, do you know where do you want to get lunch or sandwiches or, okay.